What's up, guys, and welcome to the Real Local People podcast, where we bring on local people to talk about real stories and give more information just about our area. We're realtors, and we sell houses in the area, and we try to give you guys content about where to eat and what to do and all those things, but we also want to talk about the people of this area because we think that's very important. Today, we have someone who I think has one of the most interesting jobs in the world, and he is a professional Santa, Mr. Lincoln Crum. How you doing, man?
I am great. Thank you. I'm excited.
That's awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. I want to start from the beginning. Pre-Santa, where did all of this begin? How did we get to this point?
Well, I was born and raised on a farm right down the road from your office here on Hamburg Pike. And my grandparents used to own the farm where the Meadows subdivision is, Crum's Lane and Bishop and all that. So that was my backyard growing up.
I didn't know that was a farm before, so that sure takes me back a little bit.
Yeah. And I grew up, had a great childhood and grew up on a farm and then, playing in houses that were being built. And my dad got in the real estate and the auction business. And so when I was in high school, I'd help out holding stuff up at auctions and setting stuff up on Saturday mornings. And my senior year of high school, he thought it'd be a great idea that I went to auctioneering school and real estate classes. And so if I went away to college, I could have a good job that I could work on the weekends or come home.
Do you have the auctioneer voice?
I do have the auctioneer voice, yeah. 25, now 50, 75, 100, 150, now 250, now 300.
I love it.
Yep. So I got all that squared away. I graduated high school, and 3 days later, my dad was diagnosed to having throat cancer as an auctioneer. Wow. And so there was no going away to college.
Yeah.
I had my real estate and auction license in place. I grew up in the family business, and my dad literally lost his voice.
Yeah.
And I was the only one to jump on board and say, hey, let's keep this thing going. And I did. Yeah. And we made it 15 years together.
Wow.
And had a great career with my dad, and then broke off and did my own thing and focused on having a personal relationship with him for the rest of the time. Less based on real estate and auctions and more based on father-son. And that was a wonderful opportunity. We were able to do that. We couldn't really do that working together.
Yeah.
And so once I left him, that made it a lot easier. And then I just spent the following 20 years running either my own company or company with partners of doing real estate and auction work like I did for my dad. In the past 10 years, I did a lot of online-only auctions.
Okay.
From 2014 to 24, we did almost 800 online-only auctions. Real estate, personal property, estates, all of that. And I pretty much just ran out of steam.
Yeah. I'm curious. I'm sorry to stop you, but I'm curious. So what sins, this is just my real estate brain talking here.
Yeah.
What's the most likely scenarios of people who benefit from doing an auction versus just a standard sale process?
Yeah. So it's a as-is sale. So the buyer buys it as is, not contingent upon inspection, appraisal, or financing. So it's a cash sale for the seller.
Yeah.
It's a quick turnaround time. It's a guaranteed sale for the most part. You sometimes take a little bit of hit on price because there's only so many people that can pay cash wise. But in the big picture of things, it's a real advantageous method for people if they are just really needing to be done.
Yeah.
Sell the house, sell all the stuff in it, fill up a dumpster, get it all out.
And I bet you that seems like that would be pretty fulfilling in a way to meet people who they just need to be out. Maybe they're dealing with a death in the family or something like that.
Most
I know
of
you're
it,
great in that area as far as just...
Most of it's death. I spent a lot of time being a therapist and a coach and a counselor to people. And what happened 35 years ago, we were talking about personal property assets that had real money, antiques, furniture, glassware, collectibles, tools, things like that. But now 35, 40 years later, that same stuff doesn't have the same value that it used to. But people still think it does.
Yeah.
So I tell people all the time, the biggest trick of the game was grandma saying, just think, someday all of this is going to be yours. Which really, all of this going to be yours turns out to be a whole lot of work and a liability. And you got to sell all her plates and her spoon collection and clean out the basement. And it just got to the point where the expenses superseded the income on the stuff. And I felt like I was beating my head against the wall and just cleaning out people's houses. And I didn't want to do that for a living anymore.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I have a father-in-law who has more stuff at his house than he'll ever know what to do with, and I'm probably gonna be in that position, hopefully later than sooner.
Sure,
but
there are things you can do now, but you also have to keep in mind people don't like to get rid of stuff.
Right.
You know, we live in a consumption-based society.
Yeah,
and it's kind of funny. I went my career from helping people sell all their stuff as an auctioneer and liquidator to now helping people get what they want for Christmas as Santa Claus.
That's awesome. So auction, I don't want to spend too much time on that stuff. That's the boring stuff. Your fun stuff is the Santa stuff. So did you go was it straight from auctioning to Santa? Was there anything in between there?
It was, no, it has been a slow transition though.
Okay.
I knew it was coming. I knew my departure from the realty and auction business was coming sometime soon. And then a couple of years ago when the big lawsuit with realtors went down, I'm like, they're changing the way that our compensation is. I've got to find something different. Yeah. And my best friend was having a Halloween party, October 21st, 2021. And he said, why don't you get a Santa suit and wear it and see what it looks like? And lo and behold, I went on Amazon and bought that little $89 red Amazon suit with little gold stickers on it and real thin little fur. And I put it on. I put the Christmas hat on. I put my glasses, fake glasses on. I looked in the mirror and I'm telling you what, I started crying.
That's awesome.
It hit me. And that is what it felt like to step out of Santa's closet.
Yeah.
And so that first year I did about 10 visits, and in that suit and my galoshes that I got from Rural King, and just kind of tried to figure out, I live in Charlestown, which we have a ton of Christmas lights up there. So I would go work out on the square for a couple of days and see if I liked it.
Yeah.
I bought that first little suit just to see if it was something that I liked to do. And once I did that, I got my photo albums out. I realized my dad was a Santa. I remember that from the 1980s at the Green Tree Mall. I was a child Santa. When I was 10 years old, I built a Santa suit and a Santa beard, and all of those memories started to come back. And it just kind of pieced together that Santa has been a part of my path since the beginning. Yeah. And I need to lean into it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I something I've noticed, you see the Santas in the movies and things like the bad Santa, or things like that. But you mostly see him as the grumpy old man who's doing it, walks outside to smoke a cigarette.
Right.
You couldn't be any more different than that. It seems like you've, and honestly, I watched the podcast with you and 3 other Santas in the area, and they seem about the same way. So did you see that more often than people who feel like it's truly their calling and take it very seriously?
Yeah, I'm way deep into the Santa industry, and there's a whole Christmas performers industry. 5,000 Santas in the country. We're probably 2,000 short.
Really?
We lost some during the pandemic. COVID kind of changed the way Santa worked in person for a little while, but we've worked through that. And I came out in 2022 I went to a Santa con, a Santa convention, and talk about overstimulating. You're in a room with 750 Santas. It is overwhelming, overstimulating, all the things. But I knew that this was my home. I knew this was my place where I needed to be. And while we are all look a lot alike, there's still a lot of diversity within our group. I'm a big believer in being Santa year round, and all the way from wearing attire, and because I love seeing people out in public in Santa clothes. I just do, especially littles. But it's really important for me to keep the Santa heart all year long.
Sure.
And so I do a lot of work beyond the chair, not just the visits and the photos, but we do a lot of homeless work, a lot of feeding people work, food insecure work. I'm on the regional Dare to Care board of directors. So feeding people is a really big thing to me. And as Santa, and as a Santa that helps feed people that are food insecure, it just kind of goes with the whole Santa heart. If that makes sense.
Hey. That's a good heart to have. I mean, we need more of it around here. What do you think? What's your favorite part of being Santa? Is it? I mean, maybe you kind of talked about that already, but if you had to pinpoint one piece of it?
It is when I get to connect with littles, and they're not freaked out and scared, and they see it's a age 4 to 7 years old, average age, and they see me and they light up from inside out. And my favorite part is for me to experience that and see that, but also other people to see that and experience that are there with us, parents, grandparents, complete strangers, but to see that connection and the ability to lean into the present moment and create a real positive core making memory for that little is my favorite thing to do. And I do that a lot in what we call chair work, where you're sitting in a chair, taking pictures, standing up. It's just one little group after another. And whether it's I do a lot of photography sessions, a photo session, or a visit at the zoo or the Louisville Bats game where I was Santa a couple years ago. It's that interaction, that 30-second interaction with somebody that you give them, and I hold that in the highest regard. You give them the opportunity to build a core memory that's going to stay with them for the rest of their life.
Right.
That's important work to me. Now, some people may not see the importance of it. They may think that it's just a guy putting a suit on and playing dress up. But it's the feeling of believing in something magical is real, especially for littles. And it's important for all of us to lean into that and hold that in the highest regard.
Yeah, absolutely. So question that just popped into my head, and I did tell you about this one ahead of time, so I'm curious to see what your answer is going to be on it. So I've got a 10-year-old who's on the edge of starting to ask those questions and things like that. If you're in my position and he comes to me and says, "I don't believe anymore," what's your response to that? How do you handle that situation?
There's reality. And once kids get in 5th and 6th grade, or if they have an older sibling, they're just going to be told that it's just Santa's not what you think it is. So I've broken it down into 3 categories. Santa 1.0, which is 10 and younger. And that's kids that really believe that there is magic that brings them toys and brings them Christmas and brings them family together. And then there's Christmas 2.0, and that's where preteens start. And I work with them a lot when I'm with a kid, and I can tell, if they're 10, 11, 12 years old, and I can tell that they're not a believer in Christmas 1.0. I stand up, I shake their hand, I welcome them to Christmas 2.0. I let them know the importance of keeping the belief and magic alive for everybody and how much fun that is for the littles. And it hadn't been that long since they believed, so you can kind of reel them back in. And I ask for their help in keeping the magic alive. And then there's Christmas 3.0, which is when you become an adult and you have to start paying for everything. So 2.0 is a good position to be in because you know a little bit, you got an inside track, but you also get to help keep the magic alive. Yeah, absolutely. I love that answer. So let's see. One of the things I was thinking about here. So you can't really turn Santa off because you just look like Santa Claus. So especially around Christmas, I would imagine it's hard to get anything done walking around town. Do you get stopped a lot? I get stopped a lot. I look a lot like the iconic 1930s Coca-Cola Santa character. I look like that character a lot. I can turn it off a little bit. I put a hat on and put sunglasses on, and the old Avengers keep my head down. I keep my head down. But I have the ability to heighten my energy that surrounds me as Santa when I'm out and about. And 90% of the time, I want people to recognize me as Santa. That's okay to me. I really like it. People are like, I didn't want to hurt your feelings, or I didn't want to say anything, but you look so much like Santa. I go, it is a pleasure for you to tell me that. And then I counter it with, I try to pull a core memory from them. Let me ask you something. What's the best Christmas present you remember as a kid? And you can literally see them transform in their body, in their mind, in their eyes, and take you back to a time that was that great. I just did it. As soon as you asked that question, I went back and think about it. Mine was a Nintendo 64. I can't remember what year that was. It was when video games started to kind of move into that other thing. And I remember me and my brother sitting in front of the TV in my basement and playing Mario 64 and GoldenEye. And it's always right in the world. We loved it. Mine was a ColecoVision in 1981, I believe. And come to find out, my dad, being a Santa at the Green Tree Mall, bartered for that gift. I found my grandma's log, and that was my best Christmas. And then becoming Santa and realizing that my dad bartered with KB Toys at the Green Tree Mall to get me a ColecoVision, and he used his Santa money to do that. He didn't love being Santa as much as I do, but that's a pretty Santa thing to do, sacrifice putting a suit on and little kids and all that stuff so you can get your kids the Christmas that they want. And I've always been appreciative to him for that.
Well, there's something to the thought behind the gift. Obviously, you hear that a lot. My wife is a champ at that. She's so good at coming up with these little things, and I'll look at him like, he's not going to be excited about that. And then he gets it. He's like blown away by whatever the thoughtfulness or whatever there was behind that. So yeah, I can, and that's the stuff you carry with you into, later in life.
Those are the ingredients to the recipe of building positive core memories.
Yeah.
I have an experience that I don't love to keep balance with what's my favorite thing. My least favorite thing are parents that think crying baby Santa photos are funny.
Yeah.
And that they want their child to be that. And they don't care if the camera or if the kid's crying. A lot of times they're like, they'll never remember, or I'm like, yes, they will remember, because you will show them this picture forever and play it at their 8th grade graduation and all that. But if you have a little child that's screaming and you have a person playing Santa or a performer that is apprehensive about taking that child, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because the kid doesn't want to be in it. I surely don't want to hold your crying, screaming kid, because even if they're 1.5 to 3 years old, there's something in their mind that's going to trigger that memory, and I don't have anything to do with it. So I smile and I tell them, we'll have the opportunity to do this again in the future, but right now, there's no sense in making anybody uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we did that event not too long ago where you had my daughter just a shade over a year old, and she wasn't having it, but I love the way luckily we had a good extended period of time together. So we kind of worked to kind of get her a little closer over time.
It just takes work. I remember that now. It takes work. And it takes a whole lot of nonverbal communication on my end. Actually, the day that we did your event, if you rewind that day 8 hours before, I had probably the toughest photo session that I've ever had with a little kid that was on the spectrum. It was after 4 hours of photos, and we just weren't sure if we were going to be able to make it work. And we did. And in fact, the pictures I got with him are the best pictures I got of the season. And it's because his grandmother and his aunt, who are raising him, sit back and let me do my work.
Yeah.
And didn't get involved and get everybody hyped up and yelling and screaming at the kids. You need to do this. You need to do that. They let me work, and I really appreciate it because I'm a professional. Yeah. And we did it. We got the amazing shots that we were looking for, but most importantly, him and I got some one-on-one time that, as Santa, it's really important for me to see the kids that society doesn't see and culture doesn't see. And so a lot of times that's a kid in a wheelchair or a kid with a cochlear implant or hearing aids or glasses or Down syndrome or on the spectrum. In society, we tend to look over or past those littles. Sure. And to me, those are the most valuable people in our society because they need the love and can also give the love greater than some. And it's really fun for me to work a group or be in a surrounding area where there are special needs and developmental disabilities, because their excitement to see me is just as wonderful as it is for me to see them. And I like seeing the people in our society as Santa, but also as a local business person, I like seeing people in our society that people don't see.
Yeah.
And that's a real important niche for me too, where I reside, where I live.
That's awesome. I love that. So we're winding down on time here, but I did want to ask you one thing. I know you took a pretty crazy trip here for Santa here not too long ago, didn't you? I want to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was lucky enough I was one of two Santas that went on a trip to Hong Kong International Airport, and we worked there for a week and stayed at a hotel, and I worked performing 4 times a day with a band and marching through the airport. And it was one of the best experiences of my life.
That's cool.
And it was a little scary. It was a little overwhelming. But the universal language of Santa is nonverbal. And I proved that when we were there. I took probably 3,000 to 5,000 pictures with people traveling. Wow. And got to do a whole lot of performing and dancing and marching and showing off my suit and my overall general Santa awareness. And it had a really wonderful impact on everybody that I got to come in contact with and myself. And I was proud to be one of, I don't know, there are probably 10 Santas in that league in the country that travel internationally. And I went from 0 to being on that platform in 3 years. That makes me pretty proud and makes me realize that I've made the right decision to transition out of one career and slowly, but also quickly find a new career and find something that I get to do. And that coupled with becoming a self-published author, I'm writing a children's book.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. Those things are next level Santa for me. And I have some things just like that planned for 2025. And the beautiful thing is, if I can imagine it and I can dream it up and come up with these fun ideas to help build the Santa character that I am, I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen.
Yeah. So 2 things. Number one, where can somebody get a hold of your book?
You can get it at mylocalsanta.com.
Okay.
And I will sign it and autograph it and send it to you. And they're $20.
Awesome.
And that's real easy.
Yeah. Awesome. And then the second question is, when we come around Christmas time, or I guess year round, anybody who needs a Santa for something, how do they do the same thing? mylocalsanta.com?
Go to mylocalsanta.com and put in a booking request. I've got a drop-down menu that's got everything from a blog post about my trip to China to the book to gallery of photos to a booking request. It's pretty simple to do.
Good deal. Well, I had a couple things. So I know a lot of these podcasts end with like this little question, what are your questions? What's your favorite book? What's your favorite that? But my idea, since this is such a local thing, I want to hear some answers to some local questions.
Okay.
So my first question for you is, what's your favorite local place to eat in Southern Indiana or Louisville?
The Orange Clover Cafe in Jeffersonville.
Okay.
Right down by where all the bridges are. It's a caterer and a cafe and open Monday through Friday, 10:30 to 2:30.
Orange Clover Cafe.
The Orange Clover. Soup, sandwiches, all kinds of great stuff. Monthly event called the Second Saturday, which is a 5-course dinner. My girlfriend owns the restaurant, so hence why it's my favorite.
We'll have to have her on at some point too.
Oh yeah. She creates some really wonderful food, and that's my favorite spot.
Awesome. Second question. What is something in the Louisville or Southern Indiana that's either free or inexpensive to do that you like doing?
I really love the park systems.
Yeah.
I walk with a couple buddies of mine. We try to do that a couple days a week when the weather is nice. I really like the park systems in Louisville and in Southern Indiana. I'm proud of the parks that we have over here. And I think it's good for family. It's good for exercise. And again, it's free.
Yeah. Well, I have to reference one of our other videos here. We talked to Amber Ridings, the parks director, and she talks a lot about those free parks. So if you're interested in that, check out that one. We talk a lot more about that stuff on there. So.
I've worked with Amber as Santa for the city of Jeffersonville and Light Up Parade, and doing parades and light ups are some of my absolute favorite thing to do as Santa.
Yeah. It's incredible. I love what they're doing over there right by your office in the Charlestown Square there. They do such a good job of lighting that up in the middle. It's a cool little thing for a small town.
It makes it easy to be Santa, to live that close to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to put in my little pitch here at the end, which is that I'm a realtor. We're doing this to try to give you guys good content, learn about the people, the places, all those things. But we also sell houses. So if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in our area, reach out to us. Don't care how you do it. Facebook, email, phone. It's not hard to find me. Just let me know. We'd love to help you. And Lincoln, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thank you. I'll leave you on one note. I tell this to everybody. Keep in mind and don't ever forget that the best present isn't found under the tree. It's the present moment that you have with your family and your friends, not just at Christmas, but all year long. And live a life based on the present moment, and you'll always be happy.
Can't end it any better than that. Thanks, man.
Thank you.